you? What healer are you? And I'm really excited about this class because I've had a lot of my clients and students asking me what type of healing modality they should be certified in, what kind of development they should do for their psychic gifts. And I thought, what better way than to have a class to talk about all the different gifts and all the different healing modalities that are out there. So the purpose or the objective of today's class is really so that by the end of the class, you feel like you know what you're connecting with, whether it be clairvoyance or Reiki or, shaman or, clairsentience or empathic. You'll have a better idea of what you connect with, and I'll also give you some ideas of places to start with development in the future. We're going to start with psychics and mediums and channels because I think the big question is, what the heck is the difference between these three things? Like what makes somebody a psychic versus a medium or a channel? I believe that everyone is psychic, and for those of you that know me, you know that. It's really just an ability that you hone, just like you may not be a marathon runner, but you could train to be a marathon runner. There may be better people suited to be a marathon runner than others, but ultimately, psychic abilities are something that you can hone and develop and open up over time. Anyone can learn to meditate. Anyone can learn to trance channel. It's really just a matter of what you're open to, how much you want to work on it, and what you're able to let go of. One of the things that I've learned, when we first learn to meditate, and I think we've all talked about this before, but when we first learn, we are immediately, as soon as you close your eyes, you're immediately filled with 1,000 thoughts. Your grocery list, what happened yesterday with your dad, what's going on with your dog or your children, all these things, like relationships, it all flows up and it bubbles up. And it takes a lot of time just to release that. You might meditate for 3 weeks, you might meditate for 3 years to clear out the garbage that's going on in our head, to get to the quiet place, to reach that information. I also believe in reincarnation. So for me in particular, I believe I've been a psychic reader in many lifetimes. So it's an easy thing. I don't think that I picked up my first deck of tarot cards at age 16 and knew what they meant simply because I have mystical gifts. I think I've done it before. I think I recognized the pictures. I think I knew what they meant somewhere inherently inside myself. So again, I want to state right here and now, I think anyone can do it. I think it's really about what you connect to. It's part of why I'm doing this class. Not everybody's going to be a tarot reader, but not everybody's going to be a medium either. And not everyone connects to everyone. I have clients that connect to me because they like my energy. I have people that connect with other people better. It really just depends on what your soul's journey is at, what you need, what kind of information you're looking for. I think it all varies. There's not a person on the earth, I think, that can't do it. They might not be open to it, they might not be drawn to it, they might not care about it. I think if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, if you're sitting in this room, you're interested in it, or you wouldn't be here. So it's going to be easier for you to develop your gifts than somebody who maybe it was forced upon them, which I can't imagine that happening anyways. So psychics, mediums, and channels. So clair senses. So clair, C-L-A-I-R. Clair is a French word that means clear. So there's different clair senses. There's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairsent, clairtangency, clairgustance. There's all these different clair words. So we're going to go through each one of them. And we're also going to do some activities around those to kind of test out where we are in our abilities and our gifts with this. So want to start with clairvoyance. We're just going to start right out of the gate with clairvoyance because I think most everybody's heard that term. Clairvoyance means clear vision. It is the ability to gain information about an object, person, location, or physical event through extrasensory perception. So I want you guys to do something pretty simple. Close your eyes and imagine a tree. Did everybody see a tree? You can open your eyes now. Yes. That's clairvoyance. That's it. It's visualization. So the idea is obviously not imagining something on your own, but you're picking up on a symbol from someplace else. So I want you to try something else. You're going to close your eyes. This time I want you to imagine more of a story. What's going on with that tree? Are there animals or people around the tree? Is there a house? Is there, where is this tree? Is it a pine tree? Is it an oak tree? What kind of situation is happening around this tree? So I want you just to take 30 seconds to kind of formulate a new picture in your mind of what's going on with this tree. Let's talk about it. So what kind of tree did you see?
Before I pictured the tree, I pictured a cliff overlooking the sea.
Interesting.
And then as I zoomed back from the cliff, I saw my tree by itself.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's not a pine tree. It's like an old school, been there for hundreds of years, like solid oak tree or something along those lines.
Okay.
So the further I zoomed out, it was like the only tree nearby.
Oh, that's interesting. What did you see?
Mine was an oak tree in a pasture with a fence behind it. It was standing just by itself in the fall.
Oh, interesting. Interesting, we got a lot of trees by themselves. What did you see?
Mine was by itself as well. But it was a maple.
Okay.
It was in the fall, blazing orange, red. Yeah, there were mountains in the background. And, and a little river creek.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Well, I saw a cartoon tree, which was weird, and there was a cartoon boy with a kite walking behind the tree flying this red kite. So I don't know. And when I zoomed out a little bit, that's when I was like, oh, there's a house. That's when it flew out of my mouth. I'm like, oh, do you see a house? Because I'm like, oh, I see this big house like behind it. But it was all a cartoon. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, that's interesting, huh? So that's clairvoyance. It's visualization. And so I think clairvoyance, while it's the most common psychic ability talked about, used, expected, it's also the easiest to doubt because you're like, what am I seeing? Clairsentience is clear feeling. This is the most underestimated psychic gift, and I liked that it said that because we all probably, clairsentience and being empathic go hand in hand with each other because it's feeling. So it's the ability to feel strongly and sense the emotions and feelings of people, animals, spirits, and places around them. You can feel emotions of others both in your heart and your body, and you can likely feel spirits around you. So even just what we feel in this room right now, if you take a minute and you put your hand on your heart and do your left hand, put your left hand on your heart and take a deep breath and just feel the room. Feel the emotions of the room, the senses of the room. Feel if there's any spirits in the room. Okay, and open your eyes. And what'd you feel?
I had a hard time.
Had a hard time feeling?
Anything.
Oh,
I
interesting.
got sunshine, like somebody's
Sunshine?
craving like warmth or somebody.
Oh,
I
I
just
like
got
to go to the
sunshine
beach.
like
I don't know about
overwhelming.
you guys. The beach sounds really nice. Have any of the four of you has your dad passed away?
Yeah.
Your dad's passed away? Because that's really, like, I got a really strong that there's a dad in here with us. So I
I did
felt
get a
the-
little zing on my back.
Yeah.
So
I definitely felt that, and I feel like there's a lot of energy in this room, so it may be the opposite of not feeling anything. There might be so much that it's hard to sort it out, because I feel like the room is really thick with just a lot of energy. So that's clairsentience. It's really just feeling. Another way to do it is to hold somebody's hand and to connect with them and to really feel their emotions. We won't do that in here, but that's a really good thing to practice. You can tell a lot just by connecting with somebody. And with any of these gifts, being present is important, but with clairsentience, it's really just about being present. As soon as you sit with somebody and put your hand on their hand and just sit there for a minute completely present, you're going to know what's going on with them. And so clairsentient isn't a seeing, it's more of just a knowing. That, you feel like it's very hectic, or you feel like it's a very joyful energy, or somebody's at the grocery store and you can just tell they're angry and disgruntled just by the way they're moving around and how they feel. So that's clairsentience. Clairaudience is clear hearing. The best example of clairaudience is, because this has probably happened to every single person, is you hear somebody shout, like almost like it's like, boom, like, hello, like all of a sudden, like you hear, and I hear a lot of stories, and this has happened to me too, where it happens like first thing in the morning, like it almost wakes you up and you're like, oh, somebody said my name or whatever. But it's a very weird, clairaudience to me is a weird thing in the sense of how you hear. Because it is hearing, but it almost seems like somebody's shouting in your ear, but it's a whisper at the same time. I've heard my name, like, it'll be like, Lisa, like across a lot. When my dog passed away, I used to hear him, he had this bell on his collar, this stupid bell. It was this teeny little bell, but man, it made a lot of jingly noises, and he was a basset hound, so it was like awkward, this bell. But he always had it, so I just left it on his collar. And I would hear that all the time. I'd hear his bell a lot, and every once in a while I'd hear him bark for a while, a couple years after he passed, and then it kind of stopped. But now I'll probably hear him the next day because I just said it, but it kind of stopped and I didn't hear it anymore. But I can't say that I hear a lot, but I'd say probably 20% of the time in a reading I might hear a message versus seeing one where I'll hear them say this. Especially if I'm talking to somebody who's crossed over, I will hear them talk if they're strong enough. It just depends on the spirit. Clairtangency. This one's kind of cool because I didn't realize it was its own thing, separate from clairsentience. So clairtangency is psychometry, which is clear touching. It's the ability to sense information by touch. This is applied to an inanimate object such as a piece of jewelry, clothing, or a motor vehicle. The word psychometry literally means measuring the soul and was coined by Joseph Rhodes Buchanan in 1842. I just thought that was fascinating information, like historical information. So psychometry or clairtangency is actually touching something and reading it. So again, it kind of goes hand in hand with touching a person, but I have some crystals. So I have these crystals, and you guys know, I mean, crystals, rocks, all those things, they all have different energies, right? But these are actually from the store that's here where we're at, and so I think it's kind of interesting to see what's going on with these. So my advice would be to, because all of us have two, I think my advice would be to only use one to start out with. Because otherwise you're going to get multiple information. And just put your hands on it. Like, what's the first thing you guys feel? Like, what are some keywords that come up?
Oh, I get hit in the gut.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like this is, like, tired. This stone is tired, whatever it is. What do you think, Christy?
I get more curiosity.
Okay. What do you think?
I have to say it's more along the line of curiosity, but there's something more and I can't quite figure it out.
Okay. Well, we're going to go deeper. So your initial, whenever you do psychometry, your initial thing is usually like the hit of energy of whatever's swirling around it. But then you can kind of go deeper. So like these are crystals, these are stones. So they're going to carry their own energy beyond what's on them. So take a minute and just take a deep breath and try to go beyond the first message. Try to imagine that you're going into the cellular structure of the crystal. And what is this crystal doing? Like, what's its purpose? Like, what is beyond the layer of stuff that was sitting on top of it? And what do you guys, if you get something, you can just say it.
I got a lot of knowledge, history. It's
Oh,
been
that's
around
cool.
a long time.
Akashic Records rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
More protection, comfort.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
It almost it's like forcing somebody to feel something that they're trying to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because maybe it's because I'm pregnant, I don't know, but part of me is like I could totally cry right now.
Wow.
I could totally cry right now, and I don't know. It's almost like it's throwing you into feeling the things that you don't want to feel.
So like the shadow. This one feels like heart, like physical heart, like blood, like circulation or something. Like I'm seeing like the heart pumping blood. So I don't know. It's interesting. Switch to your other stone and notice how different they are. Like that's the first thing you're going to notice is how completely different those stones are. This one feels, I don't know what I grabbed, but you guys probably all felt the energetic ones. This one feels kind of, I don't know if there's much going on with this one. This is not what I would buy for myself. I don't feel like a lot's happening here. What do you guys think?
This one's lighter. The energy is more vibrant, I guess.
Okay.
This one definitely feels light, like not necessarily lighter energy, just light.
Okay. For some reason, I see like the spot on the trail with like the water and like the grass with this one here. Like, I feel like it's very connected to like, and I see moss, like moss and grass and green and whatever.
This one's lighter. And as I put it in my palm, it almost felt like somebody was putting a blanket on top of me.
Oh, that's cool. I think one thing to do with psychometry, so one of my favorite things to do is talk to your house. Kitchen is the heart of the home. You can go into the kitchen and like put your hand on the wall and you can talk to your house. You can do psychometry with anything. In fact, practice with everything. You can put your hands on trees. You can, put your hands on even on your remote controller for TV and feel the buzzy energy of that, like what that really means to manage a television, and there's a lot of energy. So anything, you can have psychometry with anything. So the next one on here is telepathy. This is connecting mind to mind with extrasensory perception, mind to mind. So telepathy and ESP, like that extrasensory perception, I think a lot of people's misconception is that as a psychic, you can read someone's mind. And that's not necessarily how it works. So telepathy is truly doing that. It's, I'm thinking of a blue tree. Are you thinking of a blue tree? Like, I'm seeing this kind of thing. So there's an aspect of it, but I don't know the purpose of telepathy other than it might be a gift that you have. And you can certainly hone it and develop it. I kind of bucket telepathy with remote viewing. Remote viewing is I can see what's happening in another place. So there's a whole lot of crazy documentaries you can watch about the people that they had remote viewing for the government, especially during World War II. So a lot of interesting like spying basically taking place as people were remote viewing. So it's a thing that people do and did, and it's something that has been used for good and bad. So remote viewing and telepathy, I think, have their place, but I don't know what else I really want to say about it, except that it is technically the ability to read someone's mind. Are we walking around reading people's minds? No one has time for that, So when you're doing a reading for somebody, you are connecting with their energies. You might pick up on what they're thinking about for sure. But you're not going to sit probably and get literally what's going on in their head the whole time. Precognition is the knowledge of a future event. Another word would be prophetic. If you have prophetic dreams, you're going to dream about something that happens later. And we all have that, right? We all have deja vu where it's like, oh, I dreamt about that and here it's happening. That's just part of your pineal gland in your brain working, which is what drives your psychic abilities, is your pineal gland, is part of it. So part of why you have deja vu is because you're working that gland and those things like at night when you're sleeping and you're in a certain REM state. So, precognition is I just know such and such is going to happen. I think if I'm really focused, I might know that my mom's going to call me in the next hour. You might wake up and know that there's going to be trouble at work or something's going to happen. So precognition is a knowing in advance of something else. Where prophetic is something that came to you that told you about the future, like a dream or a vision or something like that. Like you might just know you're going to get a new job. That's precognition. I know that that's going to happen. Or I didn't get in my car today because I knew I was going to get in an accident. That's another form of precognition. Okay, so now we're going to get into the heart of things, which is mediumship and channeling. And what does that mean? I remember when I started reading people and you're having to do fairs and things and you're having to categorize who you are, which is a weird thing. And I remember thinking, like, what is the difference between the psychic and a medium? Like, isn't it all the same thing? And it's not. So being a mediumship, practice of certain people known as mediums to purportedly mediate communication between spirits of the dead and living human beings. There are different types of mediumship. There's spirit channeling, Ouija. So a medium is the medium between the spirit world and the living world to communicate. That's essentially what a medium is. So a psychic will predict things using divination tools like tarot or runes or playing cards. They're also going to use their clairvoyance, clairaudience, all the things we just talked about. A medium is just talking to the people who passed away in order to get information to the people who are still alive. That's the difference. So again, this is something I still think can be developed, but it is something that, I think certain people are more prone to do. I definitely saw spirits and communicated with them, or they tried to communicate with me for as long as I can remember. It used to scare me as a little girl. I used to be scared. I'd have people stand by my door, and by my bedroom door when I was trying to go to sleep, and I would huddle in my bed, and I remember that. It was scary. You don't know. It's not a normal thing. It's not like everybody says, oh yeah, that's this, I will if I have any children, tell them, hey, this happens. Let me tell you why. But you don't really, we just don't have those conversations normally. So, so I definitely was prone to it, or, more open, or whatever the words are. But I don't think it doesn't mean you can't communicate with them. I think if you're drawn to mediumship, you should develop the gifts. And there's a great book I'm going to recommend, which is called So You Want to Be a Medium by Rose Van Einden, Eynden. I love that book because I'm very analytical, and that book is a very here's activities you do, and this is what's going to happen, and this is how you do it. It's a very type A, check the box kind of book, which I appreciate, because when you're trying to develop something like that, you need it to be direct and specific versus being open and kind of vague. So if you're drawn to it, read the book and do the exercises, because it will start to open things up. I'm not a big fan of the Ouija board. I think it's got a lot of negative energy around it, and not even the board, or not even the communication piece, but just the board, because of all of the connotations around it. There is a board called the Psychic Circle that I have, and I don't use it very often, but I've used it in the past for seances and things like that. It's really brightly colored. It's connected to Edgar Casey. I think it's his group of people that designed it, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the Psychic Circle board is awesome, and it also has more to it. It's not just letters and numbers. It's got symbolism and all sorts of different things. So if you want to try that, it's a good board to try it with for sure. Those are probably the best ways. The easiest way to practice, and one of my good friends and I laugh about it all the time. Remember those days when we did this? But you can get a taper candle, and you want the taper candle to be really high. You want air to flow around this taper candle, but you also want to make sure that there's no air on. So no fans, no, want to be in a calm room like this. And have the taper candle sitting in the center in a candlestick holder, so it's up kind of high, and light it so that the flame is moving, and talk to the flame. Because depending on what you believe, but with all the science, all these different things I've studied and read and gone through, the spirit world they operate through energy, right? So it's why you hear all the stories of them sucking up batteries and draining things and making stuff all sorts of crazy, because that's what they do. They mess with energy, and they need energy in order to communicate. So the little flame and the air movement is enough to get some action and activity out of it. If you turn on a recorder, it'll help, but don't guarantee that you're recorded. I don't record my readings because I have never had a recorder work properly, and the telekinesis of it just doesn't work. It just doesn't for me. So I stopped. If somebody really wants it, I'll do it on a tape recorder, which nobody even has a tape player these days. But that's the only thing I've ever gotten to work. Because the electronic ones, the fancy ones, the batteries drain within 3 or 4 minutes. Because the spirit world is just like, boom, I'm going to take all this energy. So what you can do is light this taper candle and have the flame, and then just say, like, you know, move the flame around if there's a yes, you know? And so you can just sit, and I remember with my friend, and we'd just sit, and we'd watch this candle, we'd be like, staring at this candle for like an hour, like, you know, are we going to meet someone special? And then we'd wait for it to move or not move. And I remember one night, she and I were sitting in my office, my old office, and we had this candle lit, and I asked if my great-grandma was around, and the candle flame popped, and all these sparks came off, and I'll never forget that because it was the coolest thing. I was like, wow, she's totally here. So that's mediumship. It's really about connecting to the other side, and you're going to use your gifts to connect to the other side. So you're going to use the clairvoyance and the clairaudience. This is where clairgustance comes in, the smelling and the tasting. That comes in. I remember doing a reading. This was the coolest thing. Halloween. Every year on Halloween, I do medium readings. And I had a client who he was a producer. He produced the United movie, the 9/11 movie about the airplane. And he has a talent agency here in town, him and his partner. And really, really cool guy. Just really cool guy and did cool things. Well, he wanted to talk to Al Capone because he was related to him. And he was writing this book about him. And it was super cool because when he called, and I don't know anything about Al Capone, and in fact, most of the time I don't know anything about anything that I'm reading because otherwise it's, you know, gets confused. And we called in Al Capone, and like all of a sudden the entire office just smelled like cigar smoke, like hardcore cigar smoke that both of us smelled, me and the client, because it was so intense from Al Capone. Like I'll never forget that. It was a very intense smell. That's one of the only times. I've had a few other times, but that was like one of the times where it was like, this is the coolest thing ever, because it was obvious that presence was in the room and was making a point to be clear that he was in the room, not just to me, but to my client as well. So that was pretty cool. And talking to Al Capone was pretty cool. I don't really remember what I said at this point, but I do know it was very helpful to my client because he needed information. And since then, I've been kind of fascinated with Al Capone because, like, why did he talk to me? Why did any of that happen? So I watched some documentaries about him. So he's an interesting guy. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll take a break, is channeling. By trance channel, we mean a person who is able to set their conscious self aside in order to allow another being, a non-physical or spirit being, to speak through their body. The person who does this is the channel. So there are lots and lots of cool channels out there, lots and lots of them. But a channel is essentially somebody who has the ability to leave their body and have somebody else come in their body and talk through them. And again, it depends on how you want to work it and what their relationship is with that being. So Edgar Casey was a trance channel. He never said he had a being, he just said it was God. And he just laid down on a couch and bye-bye, off he went, and in came this other being. And his was so distinct that he had to have another person with him, his wife, who was with him every time he did readings all day long to record and document and to help keep track of him because he was not in his body. He was just out. And it's a contracted agreement. When I channel the beings that I've channeled, it's kind of a shared space. Sometimes I'm looking down at myself, but most of the time I feel like I just kind of went back here and they're kind of up front, and then we kind of rotate. There are people like April Crawford, who's amazing, who channels a group of beings that call themselves Veronica, but it's really a group of beings. One thing you'll know is if you've got a good channel, the information is typically much more high level than, it's not a psychic reading. It's not your boyfriend's going to call you at 2 p.m. It's a much more global, I'm trying to think of a good thing that they would say, but it's much more of like a global unity consciousness message. You know.
We went to go see that lady that channeled Metatron.
Oh yeah,
years ago.
Cheryl, who
You
channeled
remember that?
Metatron. She's amazing. She still does that. We should go again.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool. Yeah. And same thing. So she left her body, and Metatron came in and comes in. It comes because she still does. It comes in and talks through her. So the couple things you need to be careful, and why I stopped doing it originally was because it cracks your auric body. So when you bring in another being, if you're not careful with your energy and you don't manage it correctly, it can make you very tired and sick right away, which is what happened to me. I think, I'm in a different space now, and I think channeling for me is different now. But I think you just have to be really careful about what you're doing when you do it. There is a book called Trance Channeling by Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer. I think that's the correct way to pronounce their names. That's the book to read. If you are interested in channeling, that is the book to read. And I will tell you that book is single-handedly led me to channeling. Like, I was interested in it. I knew I'd had some experiences. I had an experience as a little girl that my mom told me about much later in life, where they heard me in my room at like midnight or 2 a.m. or something like that. My parents came into my room, and I was sitting up in the bed talking in a different language in a man's voice, which scared them to death, which is why they never told me the story. But when they did, I thought, oh wow, like, that's channeling, so I probably can do it, And so I bought this book, and I read the book, and I did all the practices and activities in the book. In fact, just talking about it, I might pull it out again. I think probably need to. But it's a great book to open to channel, and it will change you regardless of whether you end up channeling or not. But I was on this mission to like open it up, and I remember being super focused on it for a long time before it happened. So medium is, you're really communicating with the other side, but they're not in you. Channeling is someone goes in you and talks, and it's a high master guide being, which we're not going to talk about guides today, but a master guide is a very high level guide. This is not channeling grandma. Like, this is truly an enlightened being that you're bringing into your space. It's the only time you'd want to share space. You have to be careful about it. And it's a being that their vibration connects with your vibration, and you're able to meet in the middle and have a conversation. Don't do it by yourself. Do the practices from the book, read the book by yourself, but when you go to try to have somebody either in the room or nearby, because if you do pop out, you need to make sure somebody knows what happened. Otherwise, you might not even know what happened. We're going to take a little break. We've been through all the spiritual piece, and we'll take 10 minutes, and then when we get back, we're going to go through all the different healing modalities. Really 5 of them. There's hundreds. All right. So healers and healing modalities. So when you guys think of healing and healers, what do you think of? Like, what comes to mind?
I think
or what kind of healings have you even done?
Reiki.
Or had done?
Yeah.
Reiki, okay. What else?
Clearing chakras and running energy.
Yeah.
Clear them out.
Yeah. What else do you guys think of when you think of healing? Anything else?
Hands.
What? Hands?
Mm-hmm.
Hands.
What are we healing?
Energy.
Energy. Our body.
Hearts.
Yeah, hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the terms that you're going to hear a lot around healing is shaman. Some people say shaman. I said shaman a long time. I'm trying to change that. I want to say shaman because it's really the appropriate pronunciation of the word. So a shamanic healer connects energy from the spiritual realm, calling upon spiritual helpers such as power animals or other spiritual forces. Shamanic work is used to treat a range of emotional and physical illnesses. So I want to talk a little bit about shamans because it is pretty cool stuff, and I've done a lot of research on it, and I've been through some things myself that I'm very connected to shamanic healing, and it's a practice I do. It's a practice on the site. So shamans are typically earth, tribal, grounding healers. And they're a little on the wacky side, usually. So there's Aboriginal shamans in Australia. There's the Native American medicine man. Shamans are really a big deal between Australia and South America. But in almost every culture, if you look at tribal energy, there's some kind of shaman. A lot of shamans they become initiated by one of two experiences. Either A, they have a disability or a malfunction or even an illness that takes them near death and they come back. And the tribal community believes that if they face death, they're a shaman. They also believe if they have a dysfunction, such as they get seizures or they have a handicap, that they're a shaman, that they have energy running through them that we don't understand. The other way that they're initiated is literally, it's decided that someone will be a shaman, and the initiation is either, think of walkabouts, right, in Australia where they go off. And in a lot of cultures, especially in South America, they get buried alive and basically have to face death, and then they're dug back out and brought back to life. So the idea of a shaman is very intense. It's a dark energy compared to, when you think of like a light worker or an angel healer or something like that. A shaman, they've faced stuff. They've seen some hard stuff. They've been through it. And that's why they're not afraid, and it's also why they're connected to the other side. Shamans also deal with the shadow. So part of why they have like a dark energy, and I say that loosely because it's not that they're bad, they have a dark energy because they're not afraid to deal with the shadow. They're not afraid to face the ugly truth of life, of themselves, of other people. And they're able to move through different lokas or dimensions. And when I say loka, it's L-O-K-A-S. They're able to travel through different dimensions, and they can even take you through different dimensions through light hypnotherapy, into past lives, or even just to different things. And they mention power animals and animal totems. They work a lot with the animals. Animals come to them, they pay attention to the messages of the animals. Physical animals, like they're taking a walk and they see a deer, and some shamans are initiated because they fight a bear or something, they've overcome something, and that animal becomes their power animal. So they work with these more intense energies. I think if you think of shamans, or you Google shamans and you look at pictures of them or you read about them, you're going to agree shamans are heavy, intense, powerful healers, and they typically heal significant disease. It's not just, a hands-on healing to make you feel better today. It's truly like curing illnesses and helping people through times of illness. If they're, dying of smallpox on their deathbed, it's getting them through to the other side or to where they live again. So that's what shamans are. And there are a lot of books about shamans, and there's so many good ones. I don't even know what to say about a specific book right now, but there's a lot of them. I've read a lot about Aboriginal shamans because I think I was one in a past life, and it's very interesting, the Australian culture around that and how they really walk alone. They're very much a hermit. They're very isolated. They're their own thing. They're kind of just in their own little world. And again, I think the primary thing about a shaman initiation is they face death and they've come back to life, basically. And when they do that, there's a realization about your life that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it changes you. And so that's why they're changed. That's the initiation, is they've gone through this very intense change. So that's what a shaman is. Same thing as a medicine man. And there's cards for animal totems. You can Google animal totems. So those are really good ways to start connecting with that. It's an earth energy. It's a grounding energy. It's a heavier energy. And it's an energy that really focuses on different dimensions and different beings than a typical energy healer. So that's what shamans are. Now, if we talk about the other end of the spectrum is Reiki and chakra healing, the word Reiki is made up of two Japanese words, Rei, which means God's wisdom or the higher power, and Ki, which is life force energy. Thus, Reiki means spiritually guided life force energy. The method of Reiki involves channeling the universal life energy to stimulate the integration of mind, body, and spirit to enhance the natural healing mechanism. Reiki is probably the most common energy healing that's out there, and I don't even know, I bet out of 100 healers, 90 of them have Reiki certifications. I personally am not drawn to Reiki, but if you are, there's a lot of great Reiki teachers. Reiki, to me, it's a vibrational healing energy. It's definitely in its own realm, and the focus is really about using symbols and energy to heal people's chakras and to open up their energy system. So that's what Reiki is. Chakras separately, there's 7 major chakras that we know, right? Probably all of us remember. We have our crown chakra, we have our third eye, we have our throat, we have our heart, we have our solar plexus, we have our sacral, and then we have our base chakra or our root chakra. So those are the 7 major chakras. But if you study any Chinese medicine, there's all these little energy points in the body, over 100 of them. Those are all chakras. Hands, fingers, feet. If you look at an acupuncture or an acupressure energy chart, those are all the chakras. I mean, there's hundreds, there's lots and lots of energy points. So a lot of chakra healing is focused on the 7 major chakras because there's so much energy in those chakras. And the goal is to open all 7 so your kundalini or your chi, your energy flow, is flowing completely. But there's so many other areas. And I have found through my own healing work that sometimes a little chakra in your knee might have more problems and blockages than anything else, and it's going to help you way more than if you focus on these 7. So there are several different modalities. This is like a generic opening of energy healing, but there are several different modalities just within Reiki and energy healing and chakra healing where you can get certifications or you can learn different things. One book I want to recommend is Energy Medicine by Donna Eden. That is more physical focused. It's more about, Donna Eden is a nurse. She might even be a doctor now, but she was a nurse who wrote this book. And it's all about how to heal energy through touch and through different physical things that you can do. So it's much more of a physical, scientific book. So if you're engineer-minded or analytical-minded, you're going to like that book better than maybe a more broad, vague chakra healing book. But there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books about all of that stuff. So Healing Touch came out of the licensed nursing community in the 1980s. There are many Healing Touch practitioners. One of my good friends is a Healing Touch practitioner, and well-developed Healing Touch community holds them to high standards. Healing Touch is if you want to do energy healing, but you want it to be respected and taken seriously in any kind of community, but a more public-facing community that's not metaphysical. So the nursing community, the medical community, or even if you want to be in a holistic environment, but you want to work with chiropractors, or you want to work in more of a, I hate to say a more respected, but a less, kind of free-flowing environment. Healing Touch is the way to go. And it's a really cool program, and it's a very intense certification. You do have to keep client files, just like a doctor. There's disclosure forms because you're touching somebody. There's a lot to Healing Touch, and there's Healing Touch for animals. Healing Touch is a really good certification. It is more expensive, but it's really good. It's definitely worth investing the money in. There are some things that I think probably don't need to spend the money on. This is one of the things where if you really want to go down that path, but it's a commitment, and it's going to take, it took my friend like a year to get certified because there's multiple workshops you have to go through, and then you have to work on so many patients for so long with their files, and you have to present documentation. It's a whole thing. And she is in the medical field. So part of why she did it is because she's a healer, but she's also in the medical field, and she wanted to have something that was respected by the medical field so she could do what she loves and be the metaphysical, holistic person she is in the environment in which she was working. So Healing Touch is pretty cool, and that's why I put it on here. There are other modalities besides Healing Touch that have strong certifications. I didn't put them all on here because, quite frankly, we don't have enough time to go through every single one of them. The next thing I want to talk about is Samvahan and vibrational healing. And I'm talking about that because I do it. And so it's totally a plug for me to do it, that I do it. But I also think not enough people know what it is. And it's so amazing. And there's hardly any practitioners that do this. Samvahan is an ancient method of balancing the natural healing rhythms of your body. It is a gentle massage-like treatment that physically amplifies the internal vibrations that drive your health. It is soothing, musical, and meditative. And most people find that it feels more spiritual and different than any treatment they've had before. Trained practitioners offer treatments of 30 to 60 minutes using their hands, tuning forks, vibrational bowls. We're just talking about singing bowls, other tools. The practitioner tunes the body as if it were a musical instrument. The nerves, muscles, organs, fluids, and mind come into balance, creating a state of perfect paradox. So why I love Samvahan and why I do it. After being involved with the Tibetan community and the Dalai Lama, I went through the practice of learning Samvahan because Samvahan is a Tibetan medicine man, like Tibetan shaman tradition. The lamas did it. It's part of that. I was drawn to it. The other reason is I'm extremely musical and always have been and grew up on music, and I love music. And it is exactly as this said. When I found this description, I was like, this is exactly how it is. It's tuning your body. So when you do Samvahan, like if I were to do Samvahan on you, I actually put my hands on your chakras, on your organs, on whatever's going on. And I sing chants, tonal chants, to shift your energy. So I will actually take it from, one note, and I'll take it up a note, and I'll take it up another note, and I push the song vibration through your system to shift your energy field. I use Tibetan singing bowls also. And that's part of why they have Tibetan singing bowls. That's why they exist, because of the healing powers of those bowls. And so between the chanting and the bowls, I definitely, that's how it works. And it's exactly how it says. And the coolest story I have about it is one client, she had been in menopause for 18 months and got her period after I did this session, which was really funny. We both laughed about it because we're like, how did that even happen? But, in shifting her vibration, it shifted it enough that it cleaned out some things that needed to go away. So there aren't very many Samvahan practitioners, but there are a lot of vibrational healing and tonal healing and musical healing practitioners all over the place, even in our city. So a lot of people use singing bowls, chimes, and there's also the aspect of bringing in oils, essential oils. There's essential oil healers and aromatherapy healers and la 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 la. There's crystal healers and I have crystal healing on here. It's using stones and crystals to heal. So all of those different things tune your vibration and shift you into a different space energetically. And vibrational healing too, you can call, just like you can channel a being into your space to communicate, you can channel them into your hands in order to use their vibration and their energy to heal somebody's energy field. I work with the archangels a lot. You can work with different healers. St. Francis is great for animals, right? He's the saint of the animals, and you can bring him into your hands to heal animals. So you can do a lot of those different things. And there's lots and lots of trainings for different tonal healings all throughout. The last thing I have on here is EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques. And the reason I put that on here is because that's an old school healing technique that I honestly have never seen done or had done. But it's talked about a lot when you look up healing modalities, because it used to be the thing everybody did. It used to be before Reiki, everybody did EFT. It's the easiest to learn, and it's about finger tapping on the acupuncture meridians in the body with positive affirmations. So it's a lot of tapping. And tapping is proven to be highly critical to your physical health. From a physical health perspective, it moves the lymph system and all these other things. But it's also really, really good for shifting energy. So it's a tapping that you do on your body, and I put that in there too because when it talks about the meridians and the acupuncture, all of that is covered in Donna Eden's book. So she goes over all the different meridians in the body and the different energy points. So that's a good book to learn, is that from that energy medicine book. So the last activity we're going to do is just to talk about energy. So The easiest thing to do is to turn on your hand chakras, is just to rub them together like this, and you'll feel them get hot, and then you can start to pull them apart, and you can start to feel the energy, and you can move it however you want to, almost like you're feeling a balloon. And it might feel like your energy goes way out here, it might be obvious it's right here. And I suggest moving your hands back and forth so that you can kind of feel where that space is, of where the energy is. You guys feeling that? You can kind of, so in Tai Chi, it's all about, like Qigong is all about moving that energy ball. That's what they're doing when they're doing all those movements, is they're moving this energy ball, your chi around. So that's part of what that's all about. So the other thing is you can feel someone's aura. So Sherry, I'm gonna make you stand up. So you get your little hands, and then like I'm gonna start really close to you. I'll do you, and then you can do me. And I start to feel like where her aura is. And you can check too, you can go back and come in and see. So when I do that, I feel like a pretty good layer right here. And all of us in the room know each other, so her aura is out there pretty far because she knows us and she trusts us. You know, if we had a bigger group or a whole bunch of people, it might be really close because she's like, I don't really want to have all these people feeling my energy, you know. But yours is feeling about here. And then you can go a step further, like I can feel like, and she probably can feel this, like you should be able to feel somebody touching your aura, if that's the true focus. But I can feel that there's a tear up here. And when I put my hands up here, when I say a tear, I mean a literal tear in your aura. So I'm just kind of smoothing that out for her. And tears can come, somebody like attacks you. If there's energy that attacks you, it can do that. So I'm just kind of checking. I'm going to check all here. And you can go down and up and stuff. Like, if you go, like when I went to the Berkeley Psychic Institute classes, like we spent whole hours just feeling people's auras. All right, so the last thing, because I did this at every class I ever did for 12 years, so I thought I have to do it today, is I brought cards. And I brought the Life Purpose cards by Doreen Virtue because they're pretty awesome for this particular thing. And so I really want you to think when you go to pull this card, and then I'll read each one of you with the card that you pull. But when you pull the card, I want you to think about the focus of today. Today was talking about what healer are you? Like, what healer are you? What, are you most drawn to? What should you be focusing on? So I want you to think about that because these cards are great for that. And as soon as I picked them, I was like, this is perfect. So I want you to pull that card with that in mind. Like, what is the message for you for today with this focus? Where do you go from here? What's the next step?
Do I pick the one that my eyes were immediately drawn to?
Yeah.
God, you are on the right path. Keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
I love it.
Which is funny because there's so many options. I was hoping it would help me.
Well, the read I get on this, though, knowing where you're at in your life, and what I love about this is validating you are doing what you're supposed to do. Like, I think you've had a lot of questions about, like you said, there's all these options and what should I be doing? And I think this is saying you know what to do and you are doing it, and don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Because you're the one that's creating your life. No one else is doing that for you. Okay, what'd you get?
Study, reading, research, and education help you gain confidence and clarity about your career.
Wow. Well, I'd say that's pretty clear. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that I've been drawn to kind of learn more and to find more answers and to grow in that way. So I think it validates that.
Yep, I agree. He also has an owl, so I would pay really close attention to that because he yells at me, that owl. It's like, whoa, that's a big deal. So I would look up owl totem and see what that's...
I've actually had a couple of experiences with owls in the last couple of weeks.
Wow, for Pete's sake. Yeah. Well, there you go. What did you get?
Energy healing.
Energy healing. Shocking. I'm shocked. We're in a healing class and you got energy healing. Your natural energy healing abilities are an important part of your life purpose. So what of today, what do you feel you're most drawn to? Like, what is it that you're like, gosh, I really feel like this is what I want to learn? Or do you know yet?
I've always been interested in mediumship. I've always been able to connect to stones and crystals pretty easily. And I love learning about chakras, and so I mean those are the things that have jumped out to
Well,
me.
when you look at her picture, she's like sitting, you know, in lotus position. And for some reason, I see your baby. Like, I feel like this period of time while you're growing this baby is a time for you to do just this, to sit and meditate and to think and to connect. And it's why it's all opening up for you again, is because it's like, okay, this is the time to focus on that. So I think all those things. I don't know much about crystal healing. I've used crystals to heal. Like, there's mainly because, like, I know that orange carnelian stone is good for blood flow or whatever it is, you know? So, but I don't know much about it beyond that. So you might want to see if you can learn some of that. I got books. Your Connect to Your Life purpose through books.
Look at that screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well, we know what that's about. Cool. You guys want to know anything else? I said we're good. I thank you guys so much for coming.